welcome to our very first podcast. My name is Amanda Guerrera. I'm a senior product designer at National Australia Bank, and I'm here with my colleague and friend, Farah.
Hi everyone, I'm Farah. I'm Senior Product Designer at NAB.
Please starting this podcast because of our frustrations that have been born by the fact that there's so much information for entry and designers who are interested in coming into the industry, but there's not so much for people like us, senior, who are looking to get into leadership roles. So we thought we'd do the groundwork for these people, for people like you and I that are in that senior, trying to get up to leader, and we'd bring in some industry experts. So I've got on the call Grace Shaw with us today. Grace is a recruitment consultant at Talenza. Welcome, Grace.
Hi, Amanda. Hi, Farah. So nice to be here. Thank you for having me.
I know about we've basically got this frustration around senior to leader. So we're really interested in finding from you and your expertise around what are some of the observations that you've had in at the moment with women in leadership roles.
Yeah, I think at the moment, women in leadership roles, they've got a lot on their plate, right? I don't want to make a sweeping generalization and say that all women are also responsible for taking care of children and looking after the home as well. But look, ultimately, a lot are.
So, Grace, you were mentioning about how the women don't want to go into senior roles or leadership roles. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
I mean, look, I probably shouldn't say women don't want to, but there's just hesitation. Like I mentioned, there's fatigue, there's fear. And I think that's probably always been something that's prevalent for women as well. But maybe in the past, pre-COVID, we didn't have the trauma of people losing roles or having so much more on their plate or just being generally so worn down. There was maybe more hope for the future too, I would say. That's sort of the general sense that I feel from talking to people literally day in, day out.
Interesting. And do you think there's been any residual impact from COVID because of that?
Yes, for sure. But look, it's changing. There is more hope on the horizon now, and I feel like women. I've actually just got off the call from a woman who I'm having conversations around a very, very senior leadership role at a really large organization, and she's pumped. She wants to take on the challenge. She's got a young family. She's got a husband. She does a lot of the caretaking duties. But I think leadership roles now too are a little bit different because there is a bit more flexibility in terms of being able to work from home and actually being able to have that healthier lifestyle balance. So while the pandemic maybe affected attitudes, it's also provided a really good platform for leadership to be different, a bit more holistic, and just a bit more family friendly.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting, and it's a really good segue into my next question, which was going to be around what are employers looking for, and what are some of the sort of briefs or job descriptions that kind of fit the bill for those leadership roles versus senior roles?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so I'm always asked for the soft skills. It always comes down to that. And that's actually applicable from junior entry level roles right up to the senior leadership roles. It's the communication, being effective with what you say, having a certain tact to your communication, being direct, but not being vague. It's the ability to be adaptable, have resilience, proven resilience, collaboration and teamwork, always a big one too, and listening.
Yeah. Do you
how many people actually listen?
Yeah, that is so true. And I suppose just on that, it's quite difficult for women to be direct without being called, a bitch or or
Yes.
I don't want to work with her because she's very she's got a bit of an opinion about things. And how do you think women can manage that and balance that?
I know it is a funny one because, women in leadership roles, they do often have to take on a masculine style of energy, which is a shame. And I think that is a barrier that's still, it's going to take some time to be broken down. There is so much room to be an empathetic, softer leader, but still be really empowering and strong and even more successful. I think of, our New Zealand former Prime Minister
Yeah.
and a Kiwi, you can probably tell from my accent, Jacinda Ardern. There was so much hope and promise for her coming into her position because she did, first and foremost put the people first, and she had a really soft style. It was a bit of a sad demise because of what happened during COVID and all sorts of other pressures, and that didn't necessarily stand up, but it was a foot in the door for people to see that, it is possible. I love, love, love where I work, but we don't currently have any female recruitment managers, which is pretty crazy. And it's a tough market for us at the moment because not many people are hiring, and there's loads of pressure on us to deliver in the same way that we were 12 months ago. And what I see lacking is kind of getting down with the people, so to speak, and maybe putting themselves in our shoes and like feeling how we feel, and sort of slowing down, not panicking, and being able to resonate with maybe why, and okay, if this is why, then how can we solve it, and how can we look after our people to make sure they're not going to leave or burn out or become bitter, and they're still going to play on our side.
Yeah.
So there's heaps of space and there's heaps of work to do, and I think we'll get there. It's just going to be a bit of a long game.
And do you think have you seen anyone that's done any sort of training in that space? Like, is there anything that you can do to do training in that space, or is it just experience that kind of gets you there?
I think the best way to learn is experience. Yeah. Throwing yourself in the deep end, paying attention to your mistakes, and really reflecting on them and assessing, okay, what can you do better moving forward? Yeah.
What's your advice for those who have applied for a leadership role in their company and got turned down? Should they stay or should they move on?
Yeah, I think it's really circumstantial. If you are trying to get a promotion, if you've been through the process of trying to get that promotion and ultimately being turned down, that can be really hard to stay in the same organization because there just creates a divide. It's you don't see the skill that I can bring to the table, and I think you just naturally lose interest. But if it's not that, and if it's merely something that it was a bit of a long shot and they are really clear and maybe giving you a pathway to the steps that you should take to get to where they want you to be, then that's a completely different situation. I suppose what I'm saying is it's how it's managed in the aftermath if you've been for the promotion, and how you feel about the company. Does it excite you? Do you love the people? Are you really drawn to what they're doing in the long term? Do you see yourself bringing a unique perspective, or do you see a gap for change that you think you could jump on and have a big impact with? If those are a big yes, then for sure keep hacking away at it. But if you are a little bit bored, if you're complacent, if you're just doing it to tick a box, if you're after the title for prestige, then maybe it's time to look further afield and challenge yourself and get out there and see what impact you can make outside of your current organization.
Grace, you mentioned softer skills are the most
It is.
important one to get into a leadership position. Which one do you think is the most important one, or what are the top three, do you
that is a
think?
good question. Look, I'm tempted to give a really intangible answer and say, work on your emotional intelligence. But you've just got to be so in tune, I think, as a leader. You've got to constantly be reading the room and adapt to the way that the room is. And I don't know if that is necessarily something that can be taught from the get-go, but it's something that's honed over time, right? And at risk of repeating myself, I do want to circle back to the confidence piece as well. Back yourself always. If you think you're capable of something, if you want to take a certain path or come up with a certain idea, have the confidence to voice it, have the confidence to implement it, have the confidence to know that you do have the tools and the experience to at least explore it. Yeah.
Sometimes job descriptions can get a bit scary. It seems like some companies expect a lot for leadership roles. What's your advice for those people who get overwhelmed by those job descriptions?
I know, it was such a good one. And look, what I'll also say of position description or job adverts too, they're a bit fluffy. And as you may know, and the actual role can be quite different to what you're reading about, and they're left often purposely vague, and that's to capture attention. So reach out, have a chat, and if you're feeling a rapport, feeling a vibe, then just intuitively go for it, I say.
Interesting information. Good to
Yeah.
know.
Insider information, guys.
Well, yes, it is.
Be your own hype girl and go for it. I mean, it all comes down to self-belief and self-confidence. You are never going to know unless you try, right? And giving it a shot, if it doesn't work out, like I touched on before, ask for feedback and get to the core of why you weren't successful, why you weren't what they were looking for. But firstly, believe that you are capable of it and it will fall into place. I was catching up with a girlfriend over the weekend, and she's she's been offered a role of head of commerce at a really large household organization. Huge, huge scope, huge remit. I would be terrified. And I said to her, how are you feeling about it? Do you think that you can do this role? Because she hasn't worked in a role at this level before, right? It's a really big step up for her. And without hesitation, she said, of course I can do the role. Like, I've got the soft skills. I have no doubt. Everything else I can learn. I just thought that was the best response, and it was so inspiring.
Fake it to make it,
Fake it till
basically.
you make it. Yes, 100%.
I just want to send a huge thank you to Grace for joining us today on our podcast, our first ever VIP. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Amanda, Farah. Loved it. It was lots of fun.
Excellent. We'll definitely have you back, so don't go too far away.
I'll be just here ready to join you again whenever you want.
Excellent, excellent. And by the way, we're going to be posting a lot of Talenza's free or open and available positions. So we'll make sure that there's always a connection there. And we really want you to comment in the field below, because any questions that you have about your career, any questions that you have about the industry, we want to answer those. If we can't answer them ourselves, then we're going to get industry experts to come in and chat to us. So please open up the comments box. Write a question in there, because we're going to be answering them. So thank you so much for your time, and see you next time.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Bye.